Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if the biggest enemy holding you back isn't outside, but inside? What if the version of you that keeps quitting is the reason your dreams remain unfinished? And what if the only way forward is to kill that weak version once and for all? There's a version of you still alive, quietly sabotaging every goal you've ever set. The one that quits when it gets hard, hides behind excuses, and whispers, maybe later. Until you destroy him, you'll keep reliving the same defeated story. Why? Because weak habits don't fade, they must be broken. In a moment, you'll see how to bury that version forever and rise as the man who finishes what he starts. No more quitting, no more escape. You weren't born to crawl. That hesitant, timid self has no place in the man you are becoming. He's just a remnant of fear, a shadow of doubt, a ghost trained by failure. But you were never meant to crawl when your soul was built to stand tall, face the storm, and walk through it. Men don't fail because of weakness and strength. They fail because they surrender in the mind. They quit too soon. They walk away when the weight feels heavy. And so, they live in halves, half dreams, half efforts, half alive. To change, you must kill that weak version that bows to discomfort, that whispers, "It's too much." Not with force, but with a decision. Decide today that you will never crawl again. You won't kneel to excuses. Rise, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Imagine yourself alone in a field, no one watching, no one pushing, only you. In front of you lies a heavy stone, the weight of your calling. The weak version would walk past it, complain, and keep wandering. But the real you grips it, strains, lifts, and grows. Muscle, resolve, identity. Ask yourself, how many moments have you wasted by refusing to lift? How many promises have you broken? And what would your life look like if you simply refused to quit? The man who changes his life isn't the one who waits for strength. He's the one who decides to act. It is the one who moves forward, trembling if he must, but moving nonetheless. Battles aren't lost in the moment of attack. They're lost the day before, when you skipped preparation, chose comfort over structure, or let emotions decide your actions. That weak version of you walks without discipline. But the stronger man, the real you, carries discipline like a shield. Strength doesn't rise by accident. It comes from designing a life where quitting is no longer an option. Discipline isn't punishment, it's power. Power over your body, your words, and your days. It makes you reliable in a world full of excuses. Most men only act when they feel inspired, and that's why they rarely build anything lasting. Imagine a farmer who only sows when he feels like it. He'd starve. But the man who rises daily, sharpens his blade, and tends his field even in the rain. He eats while others wait. So ask yourself, what rituals shape your day? Do you wake with purpose or drift with the wind? Do you study, plan, prepare, or constantly react? A disciplined life means you won't need to summon strength in hard times. It will already be inside you. The weak version wants ease, but the real you knows ease is earned only after discipline is mastered. Your word must become law. Weak men don't collapse all at once. They crumble slowly under the quiet weight of broken promises. Not promises made to others, but to themselves. They swear they'll rise early, yet hit snooze when no one's watching. They vow to begin tomorrow. When tomorrow comes, they find another excuse to delay. And with each excuse, they weaken the foundation of their own future. Regret isn't built in massive failures, but in quiet moments of self-betrayal. Every time you say, "I will," and don't, you whisper to your soul that your word is meaningless, that you can't be trusted, not even by yourself. And when a man loses trust in himself, he loses the power to lead, to grow, and to rise. But the man who speaks with intent and follows through as if his word is law becomes powerful. He doesn't treat promises as suggestions. He treats them as contracts with his future. Your word must become sacred. Each time you commit to something, you're writing a silent agreement with the man you are becoming. The weak version of you breaks that agreement daily, not out of malice, but out of softness, distraction, and comfort seeking. But the strong version, the one you are building, guards his word like a commandment. You don't become that man by waiting for grand moments. You become him by honoring even the smallest commitments. If you say you'll walk 10 steps, walk 11. If you promise to read one chapter, read two. It's not about doing more. It's about proving your word carries weight. Let your life over-deliver. Let your habits echo with strength. Let your actions prove that what you speak will happen. Now imagine a younger man watching you. Maybe a son, a mentee, or even the child you once were. What are you teaching him? That breaking your word is normal? That quitting is acceptable? Or that discipline is born from self-trust, and greatness begins in silence with a promise kept? If your entire life were judged by the promises you've made and kept, how would you measure up? Would you stand proud or shrink back in shame? A man of his word becomes a man of destiny, not because the world hands him power, but because he proves, again and again, that he can be counted on. Begin with the smallest commitments. Let your "I will" mean something again. Each time you follow through, you drive a nail into the coffin of that weak version who hesitates, delays, and breaks faith. Kill that quitter. With every promise kept, you grow unbreakable. Comfort is the enemy. Nothing worthwhile has ever been born in comfort. No empire was built in a feather bed. No warrior was forged in luxury. No real man was ever made by taking the easy road. The weak version of you clings to comfort like a dog chasing scraps, begging for relief. But here's the truth. Comfort will never make you strong. It dulls you. It makes you forgettable. No sharp blade was ever forged in warm water. Growth demands struggle. Transformation requires discomfort. If you wish to rise, you must step where fear lives. You must walk the road lined with thorns, wind in your face, doubt in your ear. That's where change is born. Not when you're safe, but when you're tested. Each time you avoid the harder path, each time you choose ease over necessity, you kill a piece of your own potential. You don't grow by staying safe. You grow by hurting with purpose. The greatest minds in history, those who reshaped the world, were not formed in comfort. They were shaped in fire. While others fled storms, they stood firm. While others hid from failure, they walked into it. Their strength didn't come from winning. It came from refusing to break when everything around them screamed to quit. That's where strength is forged, not in comfort, but in the trial itself. Think about what you've been avoiding lately. That conversation you keep postponing. The workout you skip. The challenge you dismiss as too risky. Why are you running? Because it's uncomfortable. Because it stretches you. Because it makes you doubt yourself. Good. That's exactly where you need to go. That fire is what sharpens you, if you let it. Now picture yourself standing before a cold, dark river. The wind is sharp, the current unforgiving. The weak version of you turns away, telling himself it's not the right time. But the real you, the one you must become, steps in. Feet trembling, breath short, muscles tight. Yet with every freezing step, your blood awakens, your spirit roars, your vision sharpens. That river doesn't weaken you. It resurrects you. Your destiny doesn't live in comfort. It waits on the far side of effort. Every time you choose ease, you delay your crown. Every time you numb yourself with pleasure, you dull your edge, and soon the world forgets you ever had one. So ask yourself, are you ready to suffer for what you believe in, or will you keep chasing comfort and calling it peace? Are you ready to sweat, to bleed, to fall and rise again because your mission demands it? Or will you keep mistaking ease for joy? Comfort is no ally. It is a prison built on softness and excuses. And each day you remain inside it, your greatness fades. Kill that version of yourself that clings to comfort. Step into the fire where real men are made. Failure is not fatal. Quitting is. The weak version whispers lies each time you stumble. This is the end. You're not good enough. But that voice is not truth. It's fear disguised as logic, comfort pretending to protect you. Because failure is never a signal to stop. It's the call to begin again, wiser, sharper, stronger. Failure is not your executioner. It is your instructor. The only man who loses is the one who quits. Every other man grows. And the man who grows wins. You were not born to walk only smooth paths. You weren't created to succeed on the first try. You were born to fall and rise again and again, until the world can no longer ignore your persistence. Think of a child learning to walk. He stumbles, he falls, he crashes into tables, yet he doesn't say, maybe walking isn't for me. He rises once more. Why? Because deep within him, before fear was ever taught, he knows that falling is part of rising. The same is true with your dreams. Failure only controls you when you let it have the final word. When you say, "That's it. I'm done." You hand failure the pen and allow it to write your ending. But you were born to edit that story, to rewrite it through action, and to turn failure into a chapter, not a conclusion. Most men try once, fall, and retreat. They call it being realistic and carry regret like armor. But the ones who rise, the ones who endure the sting of falling and choose to stand again, inherit the crown of mastery. Think of a blacksmith at his forge. He shapes a blade from raw metal, striking, tempering, cooling. Sometimes the blade breaks. Is that failure? Yes. But is it defeat? Only if he quits. The blacksmith does not walk away. He tempers again, strikes again, changes the fire, the pressure, the angle. That broken metal, reshaped by trial, becomes unbreakable. So it is with you. Ask yourself, what have you abandoned too soon? A goal you once chased with fire? A habit you swore to master? A dream you dropped at the first setback? What if you had stayed one day longer? What if the very next attempt was the one to turn the tide? How many victories lie buried in your past? Not because they couldn't happen, but because you refused to stay. The weak version of you fears looking foolish. He imagines the laughter, the judgment, the silent shame of failing again. But the strong version of you sees every stumble as progress. He doesn't fall back, he falls forward. He doesn't hide his scars. He wears them as proof that he fought, endured, and never gave up. Scars don't speak of defeat. They speak of courage. You are allowed to fail. You are allowed to hurt. You are allowed to fall face first into the dirt. But you are not allowed to quit. Not if you truly want it. Not if you believe in your future. Not if there's even a spark of purpose left inside you. Kill that quitter. Kill the version of you that retreats at the first blow. Stand up, wipe the blood from your chin, and try again. Because every time you rise, you get closer. And one day, not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, the world will see what you've become. Fall, rise, repeat, until you are unshakable. You don't need motivation. You need a decision. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for the wind to carry your boat to shore. It may come, it may not. And if it doesn't, if the breeze never shows, you'll drift endlessly, watching the coastline but never reaching it. The weak version of you waits like this. He tells himself he'll move when he feels ready, when the stars align, when the fire inside magically lights. But real strength doesn't wait, it acts. The stronger version of you, silent, disciplined, and determined, knows movement comes before feeling. Action first, emotion later. That's the trap. Believing something outside you must grant permission to begin. You believe a spark must arrive before you can build the flame. But the truth is, the spark lives in your action. If you never strike, you never light the fire. The man who waits for the perfect moment, the right mood, or the ideal energy becomes a relic, forgotten by time, buried under excuses. But the man who decides, truly decides, creates his own moment. He doesn't wait for lightning to strike. He becomes the lightning. A real decision isn't made with fanfare, loud applause, or dramatic music. It happens quietly, in a cold room, when no one is watching. What gives a decision its power isn't how deeply you feel it, but how relentlessly you act on it. Day after day, without applause, without reward, only execution. That's what separates men who rise from those who rot in the prison of procrastination. One moves forward, the other waits forever. What if your entire life shifted the moment you stopped chasing motivation and started honoring your word? What if, instead of relying on emotion, you chose integrity? Picture yourself rising early, not because you're energized, but because you said you would. Picture yourself training, not from excitement, but from a promise kept. See progress not as a gift of mood, but as the product of honor. That's the version of you that builds legacies. The man who doesn't ask, "Do I feel like it today?" but declares, "I do it because it's who I am." That is power. That is freedom. That is where weakness ends and domination begins. So ask yourself, what are you waiting for? A sign? A burst of inspiration? A moment that feels easy? Or will you finally become the force that moves itself? Every hesitation feeds the old you. Every excuse sharpens his claws. But the moment you decide, the moment you cut off the need for motivation, you write a new chapter. You rip the script from his hands and start living with purpose, not permission. Burn this truth into your mind. Motivation fades. It vanishes in rain, in fatigue, in disappointment. But decisions remain. They are the bricks that build the fortress of your future. When motivation dries up, decision keeps marching. When feelings collapse, resolve stands firm. Stop being a slave to moods. Stop waiting for the wind. Take the oar, cut through the water, and move because you command yourself. That is how you rise, not by waiting, but by willing, not by emotion, but by execution. Kill the weak version of yourself that waits to feel ready, and become the master who moves anyway. Your future is watching. There's a version of you 5 years from now, living in the house built by the actions you take today. He notices every morning you hit snooze, every excuse you allow, every promise you break, every moment you choose distraction over discipline. That man, your future self, is either proud of you or ashamed. There is no neutral, no pause. You are shaping him with every choice, whether you realize it or not. But the weak version doesn't care. He lives only for the day, craving comfort now. He says, "I'll figure it out later," as if time were an endless river bending to his laziness. But every action is a seed, and one day, every seed will grow. Whether it becomes strength or weakness, that's up to you. The man of discipline, the man of clarity, understands the weight of his choices. He doesn't move carelessly. He plants every habit, every routine, every word with intention, because he knows the harvest will come. He lives for the moment when his future self can look back and say, "Thank you," not for being perfect, but for being committed. So ask yourself, what kind of man are you becoming? Strip away the talk, the goals, the big ideas. Look only at your actions. What do they reveal? Are you sharpening, growing stronger, or slowly softening into regret? Now, picture this. You walk into a quiet room and meet your future self. One version stands tall, shoulders firm, eyes clear. He fought through doubt, chose growth over comfort, showed up when it was hard. Now he owns his life. The other version slouches, eyes dull, face marked with what ifs and I wish I had. His path is written all over him. Which man do you want to become? Here's the truth most ignore. Your future self isn't a mystery. He's a mirror built by your daily behavior. Every skipped workout, every lie that says, "I'll start tomorrow," it all adds up. You cannot cheat your future. You cannot hide from it. It remembers everything. Even the smallest decisions are bricks in the foundation of who you are becoming. Wake early and you train your future to be alert. Speak with honesty and you give him character. Choose discipline over distraction and you give him strength. It's not about giant leaps. It's about the quiet, repeated choices that echo forward in time. So the next time you want to quit, delay, or indulge, pause. Look ahead. See the version of you 5 years from now. Hear his voice. Is he saying, "Thank you for not giving up," or whispering, "Why didn't you try harder?" You are always becoming someone. That's the inescapable truth. Every second, you are shaping a man, either a king or a coward, a leader or a shadow. There is no standing still. The only question is, who are you choosing to become? Kill the version of yourself that forgets the future. Bury him with discipline and build a life your future self will rise to salute. Respect your own effort, because the weak version of you is always impatient. He craves validation and applause, rewards, and recognition. If no one notices, he assumes the work didn't matter. If results don't show instantly, he believes the effort was wasted. But that mindset is poison. It turns discipline into discouragement, noble work into self-doubt, and it kills the very strength a man needs most. Belief in the value of his own effort. A man of strength doesn't beg for eyes to watch his grind. He doesn't check the scoreboard after every rep or perform for cheers. He works for something deeper, quieter, sacred. He knows real progress is often invisible. Transformation begins long before the world applauds, and sometimes even if it never does. You must learn to value the hidden things, the silent repetitions, the early mornings when the world sleeps, the late nights when you finish in exhausted silence, the moments you choose effort when no one is watching. All mastery begins in the shadows. The strongest roots grow underground. The mightiest structures are anchored by foundations the eye never sees. And the greatest men were built long before anyone knew their names. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you clapped for yourself after every honest day's work? What if you allowed yourself to feel proud, not when others approved, but when you knew you had given everything? Imagine ending your day, looking in the mirror and saying, "That mattered," even if no one else noticed. That is self-respect. That is where real confidence is born, not from applause, but from earned action. Most people don't quit because they're lazy. They quit because they believe their work is meaningless. They grind, sacrifice comfort, and hear nothing in return. No applause, no gold medal at the finish line. So they assume it wasn't worth it. But what if they were wrong? What if every rep, every step, every page, every tough decision was building something far bigger than they could see? What if the rewards simply hadn't arrived yet? Ask yourself, how many things have you abandoned just because they didn't feel rewarding in the moment? How many dreams did you walk away from because they weren't instantly profitable? How many habits did you break because progress was invisible? The truth is, reward often shows up late. Mastery whispers. Greatness usually enters quietly through the back door. But respect can be earned today, not from others, but from yourself. You earn it through discipline, consistency, and choosing effort over ease, especially when no one is watching. Every time you show up, every time you push forward, every time you decide, I will do this anyway, you become a man who respects himself. And a man who respects his effort never quits on himself. That's how unshakable self-worth is built. Not through fame, money, likes, or praise, but through steady, silent, earned action. Let the world ignore you. Let them sleep on your name. You keep building, you keep grinding, because you know the invisible work is the real work. The unseen moments are what define who you are becoming. So if no one claps for you, clap for yourself. If no one recognizes your sacrifice, see it yourself. And when the weak version of you whispers that it's not worth it, that your effort is wasted, silence him with action. Prove that your discipline is not performance. It's a promise to your future, your purpose, and the man you are becoming. Kill the version of you who disrespects effort. Bury him beneath 1,000 unseen acts of excellence, and rise quiet, powerful, unstoppable. You're not tired, you're uninspired. Fatigue often lies, disguising itself as truth. It tells you to stop when, in reality, you've simply lost connection to why you began. Your body may be fed, rested, and hydrated, but your spirit is starving. The weak version takes that emptiness as permission to quit, calling it exhaustion. But you must look deeper. Fatigue is not always physical. It's emotional, spiritual, existential. It's the dull ache of a man who's forgotten his purpose. You don't reignite energy by lying down. You do it by remembering why you started. That purpose puts breath in your lungs, fire in your heart, and clarity in your mind. When you know your why, strength finds you, focus finds you. You stop collapsing, and instead you rise. So ask yourself, what have you lost your fire for? Your dream, your discipline, your craft, your promise? And what excuse do you tell yourself when you quit? Are you really tired, or has your purpose faded from view? Picture a man digging for treasure. Day after day, he swings his pick, the sun beating down, his muscles aching, with nothing to show. Finally, worn down, he sighs, "I'm tired," and sets the pick aside. He turns away, not knowing he was just one swing away from striking gold. That's what quitting really steals. Not just the effort you've given, but the reward that was inches from your grasp. So often, what we call burnout is nothing more than neglect. A dream left untended, a fire ignored, a mission once burning slowly buried beneath routine, distraction, and self-doubt. You stop watering it, you stop feeding it, and when it fades, you tell yourself, "I'm tired." But deep down, it isn't exhaustion. It's your soul crying out for meaning. So the next time fatigue sets in, don't collapse into comfort. Ask yourself, is this true weariness or wasted inspiration? Is my body breaking down? Or has my will checked out because I've forgotten what I'm fighting for? If your goal still flickers inside, no matter how faintly, that is fuel. That is enough. Stoke it, feed it, fan the flame. Purpose lifts you in ways rest never will. Burnout and boredom often wear the same mask, making life feel heavy, slow, and joyless. But boredom only comes when your soul knows you were made for more, yet you've settled for less. It's not that you've done too much. It's that you've done too little of what truly matters. That's why everything feels so hard. The weight you carry isn't from overwork, but from work without meaning. So reconnect. Sit with your dream. Speak with your future. Remember the man you said you'd become. Let him remind you that your fatigue is not final. It's just fog. Walk through it. On the other side, the fire still waits. You don't need more sleep or another break. You need a reason. You need a cause strong enough to wake you before the alarm. A mission that makes you forget time. a vision that sharpens your steps. Give yourself one. Don't trust fatigue until you've tested it. Push once more, try again, and then ask, was I truly tired or just disconnected from my purpose? That single question could change everything. Kill the version of you that surrenders at the first sign of weight. Bury him beneath your effort. Rise not with ease, but with intention. Not because you feel like it, but because you remember who you are and who you must become. Excuses are the language of failure, and the weak version of you speaks them fluently. Too tired, too late, too busy, too hard. His sentences always begin with "I can't" and end with "maybe tomorrow." Excuses are his comfort blanket, wrapped around a life of wasted potential. He never challenges them. He believes them. And each time he speaks one, he feeds a silent enemy that grows stronger, self-deception. But you weren't born with excuses. No child begins life saying, "It's too hard." They try, they fall, they cry, and they try again. Excuses were learned from fear, from failure, from watching others quit. But what is learned can be unlearned. And it must be, because every excuse you accept steals your strength. Every time you let yourself off the hook, a piece of your power slips away. Keep that pattern long enough, and one day you forget you ever had strength. You start believing the lie that you're not capable, that success belongs to others, that your dreams are unrealistic. But those aren't truths. They're just rehearsed scripts fed by the weaker version of you. The part that chooses comfort over greatness, safety over success, survival over growth. The strongest men you admire aren't flawless. They've stumbled, failed, and fallen like everyone else. What sets them apart is not perfection, but ownership. They don't explain away their setbacks. They study them. They ask, "What can I learn?" instead of, "Whose fault is this?" They choose responsibility over rescue, growth over excuse. So ask yourself, how many of your excuses are really true? Are you truly too tired or just unmotivated? Too busy or unwilling to prioritize? Is it really too hard or just unfamiliar and uncomfortable? Now picture standing in a room full of champions, men who bled for their goals, endured ridicule, and never stopped. Then it's your turn to speak. You clear your throat and say, "I didn't follow through because I was tired." How would that sound in that room? Would you feel proud or ashamed? This is the test that changes everything. Would your excuse stand in front of the man you want to become? If not, don't speak it. Don't even think it. Replace it. Because the man who transforms his life kills the language of limitation. He replaces excuses with words of power, simple, direct, unstoppable. I will. I must. I begin now. Excuses belong to the language of comfort, but purpose speaks in a dialect of discipline, sacrifice, clarity, and fire. Every time you let an excuse slip, you tighten the chains that hold you back. But every time you catch one, challenge it, and crush it, you snap a link in that chain. One link at a time, you reclaim your strength. The next time you hear yourself thinking, "I don't feel like it," or "It's too late now," pause. Hear it, catch it, and choose differently. Say, "I'll start anyway." Say, "One more step." Say now. Not because it feels good, not because it's easy, but because you're done letting weak words write your destiny. Understand this. You don't need more chances, more time, or better conditions. What you need are fewer excuses. One less excuse today is one more door open tomorrow. One more act of courage. One more drop of momentum. One more chance to rise where the old you would have backed down. You're not held back by circumstance. You're held back by the story you tell about it. And you are the author. If the narrative sounds weak, rewrite it. Don't wait for a new year, a new week, or a new version of yourself to begin. You don't become stronger by waiting. You become stronger by refusing to wait. Right here, right now, you can silence that voice that always finds a reason to stop and replace it with the voice of power, the voice of action, the voice of now. So let today be the day you stop negotiating with weakness. Let this be the chapter where excuses die and your power returns. Don't speak like a victim. Speak like a man forging his path through fire, wielding the hammer of his will. There's no room left for the language of limitation. There is only this: I will. I must. I begin now. No more reasons, no more delays. Fewer excuses, greater results. The world owes you nothing. Build anyway. There's a weak part of you, that quiet voice whispering, "I deserve more. More support, more recognition, more help, more applause." It believes effort should be rewarded instantly. It waits for someone to lift the weight, for the universe to smooth the road, for validation to arrive. But here's the truth. The world owes you nothing. Not a handout, not even an explanation. And that isn't tragedy. It's a gift if you choose to see it. Because the moment you stop expecting from others is the moment you start demanding more from yourself. That's where real power begins. It begins when you drop the victim's script and pick up the builder's hammer. No man ever rose by waiting for rescue. Every man who built a legacy did it by taking what little he had and multiplying it. He didn't complain about fairness. He didn't dwell on what others had. He didn't sit still waiting to be chosen. He chose himself, and he acted. The weak version of you grumbles that life isn't fair, that others had a head start, that no one appreciates your struggle. But fairness is not the fuel of greatness. Fire is. Fire that says, even if no one notices, I will still rise. Fire that burns in silence, without applause, without permission. So ask yourself, what are you waiting for? A better situation, a new opportunity, a lucky break, someone to finally recognize your worth? Or will you rise without waiting? What if they never do? What if no one ever hands you the key? Would you stop and sit in bitterness? Or would you rise and build your own door? Picture a man in the wilderness, holding a dull blade with no one coming to help. No mentors, no praise, no shortcuts. Just him, the stone, and the time it takes. Does he sit and cry? No. He sharpens the blade anyway, with sweat, with scars, with silence. That man is you. You don't need approval. You don't need someone to carry you. What you need is will. Unbreakable, unstoppable will. Kill the part of you that feels entitled. Tear it out like a weed. It grows quietly, but poisons deeply. Every time you think, I should have more, you surrender your strength. Replace that voice with gratitude. Gratitude for the chance to earn your place, for the fact that nothing is guaranteed, because that means everything is possible. The world may never give you what you think you deserve, but it will always respond to what you create. That's the code. That's the law. If you build something real, something powerful, the world will notice. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in the way you expect, but real work echoes. Real work leaves a mark. No one is coming to save you. No one is arriving with the perfect plan, the easy path, or the praise you think you've earned. And that, my friend, is your greatest advantage. Because if no one is coming, then you are free. Free to build without waiting, free to grow without asking, free to rise without permission. This is your turning point. Stop waiting. Start building. Start showing up like a man who knows nothing is promised, but everything can be earned. Let others wait for favors. You forge forward. Let others ask for help. You become the help. Let others dream of being chosen. You choose yourself again and again. Kill the weak version of you that speaks the language of entitlement. Bury him under the weight of your work. Replace him with discipline, fire, and focus. Rise not because the world gave you anything, but because you left yourself no choice but to win. Small wins create giants. You don't become unstoppable by one grand gesture. That's a fantasy, a trap. The world loves stories of sudden transformation. But real strength isn't built in a single day of fire. It's built over 1,000 quiet days. You become unstoppable not through one massive action, but by showing up daily, when it's boring, when it's hard, when it feels like nothing is changing. The weak version of you craves drama, addicted to intensity. He wants overnight success, giant leaps, perfect conditions. But greatness isn't born that way. It's not an explosion, it's a construction project. Brick by brick, small wins, stacked patiently, until they form a fortress. And every day you delay laying the next brick because it doesn't feel significant, you delay your destiny. A giant is not born. He is built, inch by inch, stone by stone. He is forged in the mundane, not the miraculous. If you want to kill the quitter inside you, start by making small promises to yourself and keeping them. You said you'd wake up at 5, do it. You said you'd read a chapter, finish it. You said you'd take a walk, write a page, or push through one more rep, follow through. These aren't small tasks, they're sacred. Each time you honor your word, you place a stone in the foundation of your identity. You're not just completing chores, you're proving to yourself that you are who you claim to be. The problem isn't that your goals are too big. The real problem is chasing big dreams while ignoring the small commitments that actually shape you. You dream of writing the book, launching the business, transforming your body, but you avoid the 10 minutes of focused work today. You skip the basics, then wonder why the mountain won't move. But mountains don't move, you do. Progress is not a sprint, it's a grind. A faithful, often thankless repetition of effort when no one claps and nothing seems to change. That's what makes you strong. That's what makes you real. And that's exactly what the weak version of you will never understand. He lives for feelings, not results. He wants instant rewards, not inner growth. He quits when it's quiet. He quits when it's slow. He quits when there's no spotlight. Imagine building a cathedral one stone at a time. After a week, you barely see progress. After a month, the progress feels discouraging. But after a year, it becomes sacred. And the man who laid each stone with care knows the worth of every inch. He knows what he built, and even more, who he became in the process. You are building something too. Every time you rise when it's easier to rest, you're stacking strength. Each time you resist distraction and stay committed, you're laying another stone. Every time you finish what you start, you're writing a story your future self will stand inside with pride. Do you want confidence? Keep your word. Do you want power? Show up daily. Do you want to silence the voice that says you're not enough? Beat it with proof, one honest win at a time. Every small victory rewires your mind. It shows you that you are not a slave to emotion, that feelings don't dictate your future. It proves that discipline is possible and repetition is the gateway to greatness. That belief, brick by brick, becomes unshakable strength. You don't need to conquer the whole mountain today. You don't even need to see the summit. All you need is the next step. Take it, do it well, then repeat. That's the way. That has always been the way. Giants are not made by force. They are made by faithful repetition. So the next time you feel like quitting because the reward hasn't arrived or progress seems invisible, remember this. One more rep matters. One more brick counts. One more day of discipline echoes louder than 100 days of ambition without action. Kill that weak version of you who craves leaps but rejects consistency. Starve him. Bury him beneath your quiet victories. Rise not with noise, but with the steady strength of a man who builds greatness day after day. Train your mind like a soldier. Most men drift through life with thoughts as wild as the wind. Undisciplined, fragile, chasing anything loud, breaking under the slightest pressure. And when life hits hard, they panic. They weren't prepared. Their minds weren't trained. So in battle, whether it's a crisis, a challenge, or a decision, they fall apart. But not you. If you truly want to kill the weak version of yourself, you must train your mind like a soldier trains for war, with rigor, precision, and relentless commitment. No weapon is more powerful than a mind under control. Not brute strength, not talent, not charm, not luck, not even wealth. A disciplined mind that thinks clearly, acts calmly, and focuses deliberately becomes unstoppable. It turns storms into strategy, fear into fuel, and confusion into clarity. The weak version of you doesn't understand this. He lets distractions control his direction. He wakes up and gives his attention to whatever screams the loudest, a message, a problem, a fear. He believes every thought is true simply because he had it. He never questions his mind. He simply follows it. And that is the fastest path to destruction. An untrained mind will believe anything. It absorbs every criticism, replays every failure, and bends under every doubt. Unless you take control, it will destroy you. But the strong version of you does something different. He doesn't just hear his thoughts, he tests them. He looks at fear and asks, is this real or imagined? He hears doubt and demands, prove it. He sees distraction and says, not now. He doesn't let weakness become his identity. He doesn't accept noise as truth or surrender attention to whatever pops up. Instead, he challenges every thought until only the strong ones remain. So ask yourself, what's been running your mind lately? Fear? Insecurity? Jealousy? The past? The approval of others? If so, then it's time for war. Because your mind is not neutral, it is a battlefield. And on this battlefield, if you're not training, you're retreating. Picture your mind as a fortress. Each day, enemies try to enter. Some wear the face of doubt. Others disguise themselves as comparison, laziness, or self-pity. And unless you guard the gates, they will break in. Discipline is the guard. Repetition is the reinforcement. And truth is the weapon. You must defend the space between your ears like your life depends on it, because it does. Train daily. Don't just hope for focus, build it. Set aside time to think, to read, to reflect. Create stillness on purpose. Eliminate the noise that doesn't serve your mission. Stop giving your attention to things that drain your strength. Guard your inputs, because what you allow and becomes what you think, and what you think becomes what you believe. Choose powerful words. Speak truth over your life, even when you feel weak, especially then. Say, I am focused. Say, I am building. Say, I will not break. Speak only what builds, not what destroys, because your words are blueprints. Your mind will construct whatever you repeat most often. You don't need to fix everything overnight, but you must begin. Change doesn't come by waiting for perfect peace. It comes by training for battle, so when the storm arrives, you're already prepared. Remember this: you cannot become who you're meant to be while still thinking like the person you used to be. Old thoughts cannot build a new life. Transformation starts with mental discipline, cutting off excuses, questioning every thought that tells you to quit, choosing stillness when the world is loud, and strength when your mind grows soft. This doesn't mean you'll never struggle again. Even the strongest minds are attacked, but the difference is in how they respond. When fear knocks, they don't collapse. When failure speaks, they don't bow. They stand, they refocus, and they remember why they began. So train, not once a year, not only when it's easy, train daily. Meditate, reflect, journal, and speak. Sharpen your thoughts like a blade. Still your mind until it becomes clear, focused, and your greatest ally. Because the man who commands his mind commands his life. He doesn't chase clarity, he creates it. He doesn't wait for motivation, he generates it. He doesn't live in reaction, he leads with intention. Kill that weak version of yourself who lets his mind wander without a guide. Replace him with a warrior, a builder, a man of mental discipline. That's the one who wins, the one who rises, the one who becomes unstoppable. Pain is not your enemy. Pain terrifies the weak version of you. He flinches at discomfort, sees struggle, and thinks it's a signal to turn back. He believes pain is punishment, a cruel sign he's on the wrong path. But pain is not a curse. It's a teacher, a sculptor, a sacred fire. It doesn't destroy, it refines. You cannot grow by living safely, tiptoeing through life, avoiding everything sharp, heavy, or hard. You grow when you're pressed, stretched, even broken open, but not broken apart. The pain you've tried to escape is the very gateway to greatness. Every man who rose from nothing met pain and shook its hand. The weak part of you panics when pain arrives. He runs to comfort, telling you it's unfair, too much, not worth it. He whispers that if it hurts, it must be wrong. But that's a lie, a soft, seductive lie. Pain isn't wrong, it's real. It's the most honest feedback life gives you. It reveals where the weakness lies, where the work must be done, and where the next layer of strength can be built. Think about the last thing you quit. Was it truly impossible, or did it simply hurt? Did you walk away because you lacked ability, or because you lacked the endurance to push through discomfort? Most men never discover what they're capable of, not because they hit their limits, but because they hit their pain threshold and backed down. They didn't break, they just bent and ran. But picture this, a blacksmith at the forge shaping a blade. Fire, pressure, repetition. The hammer falls again and again. The steel resists, groans, bends, and slowly transforms into something sharp, strong, and unbreakable. That's what forges the blade. Not luck, not ease, not gentle polishing, but fire and force. And that's what forges you, too. So why run from what strengthens you? Pain is not the problem, avoiding it is. Pain is the signal, the compass, pointing to where you're weak, where you're soft, where you need to grow. If you can stay in the heat, if you can endure, you emerge forged and hardened. Not bitter, but better. Not fragile, but focused. Here's the test. Are you running from pain or learning from it? Are you shrinking back, blaming the fire, or standing in it long enough to understand it? The man who truly wins doesn't avoid pain. He transforms it. He doesn't fear the fall. He fears wasting the lesson. He doesn't cry, "Why me?" when it hurts. He asks, "What is this here to teach me?" Every scar, every stumble, every sleepless night becomes material. And from that material, he builds the next version of himself. You've been taught to chase ease, to believe comfort is the sign of success. But comfort never built a warrior. Pain did. Adversity did. Rejection did. If you hide from pain, you hide from your potential. You delay growth. You weaken your spirit by starving it of resistance. So welcome the fire. Stand in it. Let it burn away laziness, excuses, softness. Burn it all down. What survives that fire is real. What survives is ready. You were built for this. Not just to endure, but to rise. Not just to suffer and survive, but to transcend. Pain doesn't only make you tough. It makes you wise. It makes you present. It makes you aware. You stop living in delusion. You stop pretending to be strong. You become strong because you've been tested. That's why men who have walked through fire move differently, speak differently, live differently. It's not arrogance. It's clarity. They faced what most people run from, and they didn't break. They didn't quit. They stayed, and they changed. So here's your call. The next time pain shows up, don't run. Don't hide behind distractions. Don't dull it with excuses or lies. Look it in the eye. Ask what it's here to teach you. Let it train you. Let it carve away what doesn't belong in your future. The weak version of you can't handle this. He craves relief. But you're done living beneath your power. You're done quitting when it hurts. You're ready to be forged. Welcome the fire, because you were built to survive it. More than that, you were built to rise from it. You must become your own hero. No one is coming to save you. Let that fantasy die and bury it so deep it never rises again. There's no cavalry, no miracle, no secret guardian on the horizon. The world owes you nothing, and the sooner you accept that, the stronger you become. There is no safety net beyond the one you build for yourself. There is no hero arriving to solve your problems. The only hero that exists, the only one who can rescue you, is you. The weak version of you doesn't want to hear this. He clings to the fantasy that someone, anyone, will step in and carry the burden, silence the fear, and open the door. But that version of you only dreams of rescue. And dreams are not plans. Rescue is not coming. The strong version of you doesn't wait. He acts. He looks at the ruins, the weight, the mess, and says, "This is mine to handle." He becomes the rescuer, the builder, the leader, the answer he once prayed for. Look at your life right now. What parts feel broken, unfinished, or stuck? Which areas are you secretly hoping someone else will come along to fix? Your career, your health, your discipline, your purpose, your finances. Now here's the hardest question. What if no one ever does? What if it's just you and the mountain in front of you? Would you keep waiting, or would you rise? Picture yourself stranded on an island. No ships, no help, no radio. Just you, the sand, the trees, and the silence of being completely alone. Do you sit on the shore, hoping to be seen? Do you pray the tide delivers a miracle? Or do you start building a shelter, a signal, a plan, a path? Because if you don't build, you don't survive. That island is your life. No one is coming. You must build. And when you finally stop waiting and start working, something incredible happens. You change. Not overnight, but piece by piece, day by day. You grow stronger, not just in body, but in spirit. You grow faster, not in speed, but in decision. You grow wiser, because life no longer feels like something happening to you, but something you are shaping. As you build, the victim inside begins to die. The voice that whispered, "Why me?" fades. The one that said, "It's not fair," falls silent. And something new is born, the victor. The man who doesn't wait, who doesn't wish, but acts, endures, and overcomes. You begin to trust yourself. You stop searching outside for strength and become the source. You stop waiting for instructions and start creating your own blueprint. From that blueprint, a new life begins to rise. One stone, one decision, one act of courage at a time. So ask yourself now, are you still waiting for someone to notice you, to validate you, to tell you that you're good enough, strong enough, ready? Or are you finally willing to carry your own weight? You must be willing, because when you become your own hero, you'll never need rescuing again. Heroes are not born from applause. They are not defined by costumes or titles. They are forged in silence, built in the dark, molded through resistance. These are the men who looked around, realized no one was coming, and decided they would go instead. Let the weak part of you fade. That version of you, the one who waited for signs, for green lights, for comfort, kill him, burn him down. From his ashes, watch who rises. It won't be easy. Nothing about this path is gentle. You'll feel alone, tired, and full of doubt. But that's the fire. That's the shaping. With every step you take, every wall you break, every burden you carry, you build something the world can never take away: self-reliance. You no longer live at the mercy of others. Not their opinions, not their permission, not even their help. You become the help. You become the power. You stop waiting for someone to change your life and start becoming the man who changes his own. There is no greater freedom. So kill that weak version of you who sits and waits. Silence the part still hoping someone else will take responsibility. Let him die quietly. Then rise, pick up your tools, your vision, your grit, and build. You don't need saving. You need to begin. Do it even when no one claps. The weak version of you needs eyes on him to move, thrives on approval, and waits for validation before taking a single step. He only runs hard if someone's watching, only shows discipline if there's a crowd to admire it. But that version of you will never build anything that lasts. Greatness is never made in the spotlight. It is forged in silence, in shadows, in solitude. Real progress isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It happens when you wake up early and no one notices, when you keep a promise and no one thanks you, when you choose discipline over ease, and there's no applause waiting at the end. That's where the strong version of you is born. Not on stage, but in the dark. You must learn to work without needing a witness. The world may never clap, may never notice. That cannot matter. The most important battles are always fought in private. The habits you keep when no one's watching are the bricks that build the man you become. If you compromise in secret, you'll crumble in public. But if you conquer yourself in private, that strength follows you everywhere. Ask yourself honestly, do you only give your best when someone might see it? Do you only keep your word when someone could call you out for breaking it? That's not strength. That's performance. That's the weak man hiding behind attention, hoping praise will give him power. But applause is a poor source of strength. It fades. It's fickle. And if you let applause drive you, you give the world the power not only to lift you, but also to break you. Picture this, a man standing in the middle of a vast forest. No stage, no audience, no followers, just trees. Yet he builds a ship, massive and steady, beam by beam, day after day. No one sees him, no one thanks him, no one even knows. Still he builds. Why? Because he knows something others don't. One day, that ship will carry him to greatness. That man doesn't wait for applause. He works with vision, conviction, and silence. And that must be you. The moment you stop needing the world to cheer for you is the moment you take your power back. The man who only moves with validation collapses under criticism. But the man who builds from within, who acts from purpose, who moves in silence with fire, nothing can stop him. He's already decided. Greatness demands that kind of inner drive. Not borrowed inspiration from others, but a deep commitment to who you're becoming. You must build your habits, your character, your craft, not to impress, but to improve. Not to perform, but to transform. There is freedom in quiet work, peace in private progress. And when you no longer need to prove anything to anyone, you finally start to rise, slowly, sharply, authentically. So kill the version of yourself that performs. Kill the part that asks, who's watching, before he acts. Bury him under 1,000 small acts of private integrity. Replace him with the man who builds because building is who he is, because discipline defines him, and because he knows exactly where he's going. Even if no one else notices, in time the applause may come. The world may see, the stage may appear. But by then, you won't need it. You won't depend on it because you'll already be complete, already forged, already proud of who you are, not because of what others said, but because of what you did when no one was watching. That is power. That is purpose. That is how legacy is built. Let others chase attention, likes, and validation. You, instead, build in silence, laying beam after beam with patience. One day, your ship will touch the water and the world will wonder how it came to be. They won't see the cold mornings, the lonely nights, the work done without reward. They'll only see the result. But you'll know, and that will be enough. Because by then, the man you've become will no longer need applause. You will be the man worth clapping for. Finish what you start. Starting is easy. Anyone can start. Most people do, excited by the rush of something new. Starting feels like momentum, giving the illusion of progress. It fills the air with hope and possibility. But the truth is, starting means nothing without finishing. The weak version of you lives only in beginnings. He jumps from one project to another, one goal to the next, chasing sparks, but never staying long enough to build a fire. He starts a workout plan, but quits after a few days. He opens a book, but leaves it on the shelf before chapter 3. He tries waking up early, journaling, practicing discipline, but only when it feels good. When it gets hard, when the feeling fades, he fades too. He's addicted to the thrill of starting, but allergic to the pain of continuing. Make no mistake, starting doesn't build men, finishing does. Finishing is where character is carved, where grit is proven. It's the battlefield where the voice saying it's too hard is silenced by the stronger voice that declares, we don't stop. That is where real strength is born. Not in excitement, but in endurance. Not in speed, but in persistence. Anyone can sprint at the start. Few keep going when it hurts. Few crawl through the middle where there's no reward, no recognition, just raw work. That's where most people quit. That's where most lives are abandoned. Now think about it. What have you walked away from? What did you start but never finish? A project, a business idea, a physical transformation, a habit meant to redefine your identity? Be honest with yourself. Because each time you abandon something that matters, you're not just leaving behind an unfinished task. You're reinforcing a dangerous identity. I don't finish. You train your mind to expect collapse, to quit instead of endure. Over time, that identity takes root. You begin to doubt your own promises. You start new things with less conviction, carrying the silent weight of unfinished rubble. Picture a builder who lays the first bricks of a house, but walks away again and again. He drafts blueprints, sets the foundation, then leaves for another plot, another vision, another start, yet never a finish. What remains? Scattered bricks, broken foundations, half-formed dreams. Nothing that shelters, nothing that lasts. That's what life becomes if you don't finish. But the opposite is just as powerful. When you finish, when you fight through boredom, pain, setbacks, and doubt, you shift something deep inside yourself. It's more than checking off a task. You become someone new. You become the man who follows through, the man who says, I will, and does. A man whose word carries weight, even when no one else is watching. That shift isn't just emotional. It's spiritual, mental, and foundational. It's the root of self-trust, the cornerstone of confidence. Because when you finish even one meaningful thing, you prove to yourself that discipline outweighs mood, that mission matters more than comfort, and that power compounds. It spills into everything else. You start walking taller, speaking clearer, acting bolder, because deep down you know, I don't quit, I finish. Ask yourself this. What would your life look like if you simply finished what you started? Not perfectly, not quickly, but consistently. Brick by brick, page by page, day by day, habit by habit. Would your body be different? Your bank account? Your career? Your relationships? Your peace of mind? You don't need more goals. You need completion. You need to look back at something you built and say, I stayed. I finished. Whether it takes days or years, I finish. Whether anyone notices or not, I finish. Whether it feels exciting or exhausting, I finish. Not because it's glamorous, not because it's easy, but because that's who I am. Make finishing your identity, because finishing is rare. Most people quit. Most justify failure and move on. But finishing, that builds legacy. It builds power. It builds men. When you finish what you start, your name begins to carry weight. People start to listen, not because you're loud, but because your actions speak. That's how influence is earned. That's how trust is built. That's how you move from ordinary to exceptional. And don't mistake it. Finishing doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean the journey was smooth or the outcome flawless. It means you stayed the course, carried the weight, paid the price, and crossed the line, even if you had to crawl. So go back to what you started. Pick it up, dust it off, and decide this time it gets finished. Kill that weak version of you who lives for beginnings but dies in the middle. Let him fade with every step you take toward the finish line, and let the man who completes rise. Not because it's easy, not because it's quick, but because that's who you've chosen to become. Master the morning, and you control the day. The weak version stumbles into the morning like a drunk into a storm. Disoriented, distracted, already behind. He sleeps too late, thinks too little, and drags himself out of bed as if it's punishment. His first thoughts aren't direction, but reaction, to noise, to stress, to whatever demands his attention. And so the cycle begins, a chaotic morning, an unfocused mind, a wasted day. It's not just poor time management, it's the slow death of power. But the man who masters his morning masters his life. The way you begin is the way you command. And a man who commands the start of his day is the man who commands his future. Picture a general preparing for war. Does he sleep through sunrise? No. He's up before his men, scanning the field, studying the terrain, reviewing the enemy's moves, setting the formation. He doesn't walk into battle by accident. He prepares. And that general is you. The battlefield is your life. The war is against distraction, laziness, weakness, and doubt. And your morning is your strongest weapon. If you don't use it, you lose it. And if you lose your morning, you've already surrendered the first battle of the day. Ask yourself, what do you really do with that first hour? Does it strengthen your body, sharpen your mind, and fortify your spirit? Or is it filled with empty habits that cost more than you realize? Because if your first hour is soft, the rest of the day will follow. You'll be scattered, slow, and unfocused, pulled by emotions, demands, and distractions. That isn't just wasted time, it's a weakened life. The morning sets the tone. When you neglect it, you're not just skipping a routine, you're sabotaging your potential. But when you own it, everything shifts. When your morning becomes sacred, your power becomes real. Not someday, not in theory now. A strong morning doesn't require perfection, only intention. You don't need to rise at 4 a.m. or run a marathon, but you must wake with purpose. That first hour is your forge. It's the chamber where you shape your thoughts, body, focus, and spirit before the world lays its claim on you. If the world owns your morning, it will own your mind. But if you own your morning, nothing and no one can shake you. You're grounded, prepared, and already winning before others even begin. Here's the hard truth. The weak version of you will always have a reason to skip the morning. I didn't sleep well. I'm not a morning person. I'll start tomorrow. These are lies disguised as excuses. And every time you believe those excuses, you strengthen weakness. You keep feeding the part of you that fears effort. But the man you want to become, the one who builds legacy, strength, clarity, and leadership, he doesn't ask how he feels in the morning. He moves. He acts. He shows up whether it's easy or not. Because structure replaces feelings with principle. That's what growth demands. Make your morning sacred. Make it structured, not rigid, not punishing, but disciplined. Create a pattern that serves you. Movement, breath work, silence, reading, planning, reflection, whatever it is, own it. Claim it. Make it non-negotiable. The benefits aren't small. Start your day strong and your mind sharpens. Your decisions improve. Your stress lowers. Your self-respect grows. Most of all, you begin the day knowing you've already kept a promise to yourself, and that feeling becomes fuel. The morning is where you build momentum, where clarity comes before chaos, where intention takes hold before the noise of the world decides who you are. You don't need a perfect life for a powerful morning. You don't need silence or comfort handed to you on a golden platter. You need only a choice, a decision to stop stumbling through life and start steering it. Let the weak version of you die in the sheets. Let him sleep while you rise. Let him wait while you work. Because while others wake up searching for direction, you've already created yours. This isn't about becoming a robot or hustling for hustle's sake. It's about leadership. And the first person you must lead is yourself, from the moment you open your eyes. Own your morning, not sometimes, but every day. Like a warrior sharpening his blade. Even when no enemy is in sight, you sharpen your mind, your body, and your habits. Because you know the enemy always comes, and you will not face him unprepared. The man who owns his morning cannot be shaken by noise, by crisis, or by temptation. He's already grounded, already clear, already rooted in who he is. So kill that weak version of you who rises late, reacts first, and thinks later. Leave him in yesterday. From tomorrow forward, rise with fire. Because once you own your morning, the rest of the day cannot own you. And the man who commands his day commands his destiny. That's why you must choose to do hard things on purpose. The weak version of you treats difficulty like a disease, something to avoid, to run from, to shield against. He hopes every day will be easy, that challenges will be light and discomfort rare. The moment something hard appears, he takes it as a sign to quit, as proof the path is wrong. To him, resistance feels like rejection, pressure like punishment, and pain like something to escape. But that fragile mindset builds a life that crumbles the first time reality applies heat. The man you are becoming knows better. He doesn't fear pressure, he seeks it. He doesn't wait for an easy path, he walks into the fire. Because strength is never found in comfort, it is built in adversity. He does hard things on purpose, not for applause or appearance, but because he understands what most men never learn. Pressure reveals power. You'll never discover your true strength by avoiding the weight. You only find it by lifting it, again and again, until the muscles of your will, your mind, and your spirit bend resistance to your command. There is no shortcut, no secret, no substitute. Growth demands strain. You must choose the uncomfortable path and stay on it. When your legs shake, when your breath shortens, when your mind screams for relief, that's where transformation lives. Not at the start, not in the hype, but in the middle of suffering, when every part of you wants to quit and you refuse. When was the last time you did something hard just to prove you could? Not because it was required, not because someone asked, but simply to confront the part of you that still doubts, still hides, still hesitates. Most never ask that question, and that's why most never grow. They wait until life forces pain on them, then complain when it arrives. But the man who trains in difficulty chooses to walk into it. He says, "Let it hurt now, so I'll be ready when it hits later." He turns discomfort into discipline. Picture a warrior who never trains, never sweats, never bleeds. He stays comfortable, safe, convincing himself that strength will appear when he needs it. But when the real battle comes, when arrows fly and the enemy strikes, he's unprepared. He breaks under pressure. He dies with regret. Now imagine another warrior. He rises before dawn, climbs hills carrying weight, spars until he stumbles, and chooses struggle daily. So when battle finds him, he doesn't flinch. He's already bled, already conquered pain. And in that moment, he doesn't just survive, he wins. So ask yourself, which one are you becoming? Which future are you preparing for? Every hard thing you choose today makes you stronger for what life will bring tomorrow. The cold water, the long walk, the unreadable book, the hard conversation, the brutal workout. Each one is a brick in the fortress of who you're becoming. You can avoid them and stay soft, or face them and grow solid. It's your choice. That's the brutal beauty of it. Real growth rarely comes from comfort. It comes from the seasons you thought you wouldn't survive, the times you wanted to quit but didn't, and the discipline to take one more step when nobody would blame you for stopping. That's where self-respect is forged, not in pleasure, but in pain with purpose. Life won't ask if you're comfortable. It will test you, again and again. So choose struggle now while the stakes are low, so when pressure rises you rise higher. See difficulty as a mirror that shows your limits and invites you to push past them. Starve the weak voice that begs for ease, suffocate it with action. Let it die under the weight of the barbell and the pressure of the challenge. The repetition of the hard road is what allows the stronger man to emerge, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't break, and fears nothing. That man already lives within you, waiting for enough challenge to call him out. So choose it, embrace it, invite it in like a mentor. Difficulty, when chosen, becomes the tool that refines you. It's the training ground where average dies and greatness is born. Do the hard thing, not for pride or recognition, but to become the man who no longer fears the storm because he trained inside it. To rise, you must bury the old you for good. The quitter, the doubter, the excuse maker. He cannot come with you where you're going. You can't upgrade your life while dragging along the version built only for survival, not success. The one who hesitated instead of deciding, who explained instead of executing, who postponed instead of preparing. That man had his turn, and his time is over. You don't need to fix him or reason with him. You don't need to keep him close for when things get tough. You need to bury him completely, not whisper his excuses when no one's listening. Bury him, lay him down, declare him dead, and walk forward. The belief in slow improvement is a trap. The idea that you can patch up the broken parts of the old you while trying to build someone greater will only keep you stuck. You can't renovate a structure never meant to stand forever. You can't remodel a mindset designed for limitation and expect it to house greatness. You must demolish it. Burn the bricks, cut the cord, break the habit. Kill the version of you that kept you tired, broke, ashamed, and uncertain. Because here's the truth, that man made you small. He accepted less than you were capable of. He said, maybe later, when you needed to act now. He folded under pressure. He called temporary pain a permanent problem. Worst of all, he lied, telling you comfort was safety, mediocrity was noble, and waiting for permission was wisdom. That man cannot come with you. So ask yourself honestly, why are you still dragging him around? Why are you feeding thoughts that no longer serve you? Why give time, space, and energy to beliefs belonging to a man you've already outgrown? Imagine trying to climb a mountain with a corpse on your back. Every step feels heavier, every breath harder, every moment more impossible. Not because the mountain is too steep, but because of the weight you refuse to release. Now picture laying the body down. No tears, no apology, just the decision to let go. In that moment, you fly, you rise. You move with clarity, speed, and power because you chose to stop dragging the dead weight of who you used to be. That is what you must do. Write the death note for your old identity. Take a pen, open your journal, name him, describe him. List his traits, his habits, his fears, his lies. Then write, "He is no longer me," and bury him, not with ceremony, but with conviction, because you are becoming someone new, disciplined, clear, and consistent. Someone who finishes what he starts, who trains, builds, commits, and endures. This version of you doesn't make excuses. He doesn't explain shortcomings. He fixes them. He doesn't run from discomfort. He trains in it. He doesn't second-guess every decision. He acts, adjusts, and acts again. This version of you walks into the world knowing nothing is owed, but everything can be earned. He no longer waits to feel ready. He moves first, speaks truth, and demands more from himself than anyone else ever could. This is the man who builds something real. But you cannot build if you keep turning around. You cannot climb if you're always looking back. The old you is not your companion, it's your anchor. And the deeper you dig into your potential, the harder that anchor pulls until you cut the chain. Let it go. The fears, the habits, the vices, the story you've been repeating. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. I never finish anything. Burn that script. Write a new one. One that starts with a funeral and ends with a resurrection. This is the shift most men never make. They try to rise while holding hands with who they used to be. They try to win new battles while listening to the man who always surrendered. They try to build something legendary on a foundation of self-pity and delay. And then they wonder why it keeps collapsing. You can't build a future on a corpse. So bury him. Let the world miss that old version of you. Let them wonder what happened to the man who always played small. Let them be surprised when you no longer laugh at the same jokes, when you no longer skip the gym. No longer waste time in conversations that pull you away from your mission. Let others mourn the old you if they must. But you rise. Rise without apology, without hesitation, without dragging old chapters into your new book. Because the man you are becoming needs all of you. Your focus, your energy, your precision, your fire. That man is free. Free from lies, free from shame, free from the identity that once kept him small, average, and afraid. He moves without baggage, without delay, without doubt. So this is your moment. Don't try to improve the old you. Don't negotiate with him. Don't take him along for one last ride. Welcome to the edge. Dig the grave, bury him, and start fresh. Let your actions write the first chapter of the new you. Let your habits reinforce it. Let your words reflect it. Let your mornings, your mindset, your choices, your discipline prove it. You don't need the world's approval. You don't need a perfect plan. You only need the courage to say, that version of me is gone, and I'm not going back. Because the world doesn't need the old you. And you don't need him either. Bury him, then walk forward, free. The strongest men obey themselves. There is a war inside you. Not a loud one with fists and fire, but a quiet one. The battle fought in the stillness of morning, in the space between intention and action. It's the war between the part of you that wants to rise and the part that begs for just a little more rest. The part that says, I will, and the part that whispers, maybe tomorrow. The weak version of you obeys that whisper. He treats fatigue like truth. He bows to cravings as if they are kings. He listens to doubt, to ease, to comfort, and follows like a servant. But you were never born to serve that voice. You were born to rule over that voice, not to serve it. Discipline isn't about living like a monk or walking through life as if it were punishment. It's about command. It's about understanding that no one, not your boss, not your parents, not the world, has the right to run your life unless you hand them that power. The moment you start obeying every fleeting feeling, every sudden urge, you've surrendered your throne. If you're tired of starting and stopping, tired of living beneath your potential, it isn't because you lack motivation. It's because you've been obeying the wrong voice. The quitter, the excuse maker, the coward. That voice has lived in you far too long. It disguises itself with reasons that sound valid. Take one day off. You're exhausted. You've earned a break. But what else have you earned? Respect. Results. A life that reflects the fire inside you. You don't kill the weak part of yourself with anger. You kill it with consistency. You kill it by refusing to negotiate. No more giving space till later. If you want to rise, you must learn to give yourself an order and follow it. You get up when you said you would. You train when it's time. You speak when it matters. You rest only when the work is done. Not because anyone else is watching, but because you're watching. A real man doesn't wait to be led. He leads himself. Not with ego, but with clarity. Not with emotion, but with principle. He looks in the mirror and makes a vow. From this day forward, I will not break my word. Not to others, not to myself. That vow, that internal contract, is more powerful than any goal written on paper. Because the man who keeps his word to himself becomes unshakable. His confidence isn't built on compliments. It's built on proof. If you feel lost, it's likely because you've been following something weak, a fleeting emotion, a small excuse. You don't need another plan or another spark of motivation. You need to stop lying to yourself. Stop postponing. Stop giving power to moods that shift like the weather. When you begin to obey yourself, everything changes. You move with weight. You walk into a room differently. You start trusting yourself again. And when your voice becomes law, you stop waiting to feel ready. How many times have you broken your own word? Promised yourself something, only to retreat when it mattered? You've paid for that in lost time, in lowered self-respect, in nights where you couldn't look yourself in the mirror. But that debt doesn't have to continue. The cycle ends the moment you decide, fully and finally, that your word matters. Picture the man who doesn't flinch, who lives by discipline, works without applause, and endures without complaint. Imagine the strength, the calm, the presence of that man. That's who you were meant to become. But you'll only reach him when you stop obeying weakness. You don't need a perfect schedule or flawless routine. You just need to start. You need to act. You need to decide that the next time your body says stop, you'll whisper back, go, and move forward. You'll push, not for drama, but because it's yours to do. The man who lives by discipline isn't rigid. He's free. Free from being pulled in every direction by the world around him. He no longer waits for a sign. He becomes the sign. And when you stop breaking your own commands, fear loses its grip. The strongest men in history weren't just warriors on the battlefield. They were warriors of the self. They didn't beg for power, they became it. And so will you, if you learn to obey yourself. There's a lie you've been told since childhood. If it gets too hard, you can always stop. Over time, that whisper becomes belief, then habit, then a way of life. That's how the weak version of you was born. Not through one dramatic failure, but through 1,000 quiet retreats when things felt inconvenient, painful, or uncertain. The real choice isn't just to keep going for another day. The real choice is to burn the exit door entirely. To make quitting so unacceptable that it never enters the conversation. Because when quitting is allowed, it becomes a reflex. And once it's a reflex, it seeps into everything. If you allow quitting in your work, you'll quit on your health. If you allow it in your discipline, you'll quit on your dreams. You'll begin to quit not just on tasks, but on people, on yourself, on your very identity. You'll say things like, maybe it wasn't meant to be, or maybe the timing wasn't right. But what if it was meant to be, and you simply didn't stay long enough to see it through? That's why you must make a different decision now. Decide this: I do not quit. I adjust. I endure. I rise. That decision must be final, not something you test, but something you live by. It has to become part of your code, engraved deeper than any excuse. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if quitting was no longer an option? What projects would you finish? What discipline would you master? What kind of man would you become if you simply refused to stop? Picture a man digging in a tunnel. His hands are blistered, his body exhausted, and the darkness feels endless. Most would turn back, but something in him whispers, one more swing. And with that single strike, the wall breaks, light floods in, and he collapses forward in triumph, not defeat. The only thing that carried him there was that he quit on quitting. That must be you. You don't need more talent. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't even need to know exactly how it will unfold. You just need to refuse to stop, to refuse to let quitting define you. Because every great achievement has been surrounded by moments that begged for surrender. Every leader you admire, every builder of empires, every warrior of purpose stood where you are now, on the edge of comfort and collapse. And instead of stepping back, they planted their feet and pressed forward. Strength doesn't come from always winning. It comes from staying in the fight when everything in you screams to quit. It's breathing through the pain, crawling if you must, but refusing to break. If you live a life where quitting is acceptable, you'll always find a reason to retreat. But if you seal that exit forever, you'll discover something few ever do: the strength to endure. And endurance is the soil where greatness grows. So make this vow, not a wish, not a maybe, a vow. I will never quit on myself again. I will not seek escape. I will push. I will adjust. I will overcome. This vow won't be glamorous. No one may even notice. Yet over time, it will appear in every corner of your life, in the way you speak, the way you train, the way you rise after failure. One day, you'll look back and realize it wasn't success that defined you, but the moment you refused to run, the moment you quit on quitting. Let that moment be today. Let it be now, because your future depends on it. The weaker version of you had his chance, and he wasted it. Now it's your turn. Burn the excuses, break the cycle, and bury the quitter. From this day forward, you don't pause, you don't retreat, you rise. Kill the weakness, and watch the world make way for your strength. Wishing you health, happiness, and remember to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.